Thank you very much for this useful information for Latvian business representatives. And we will start with a question. I have a lot of questions, but maybe someone want to start from the audience. Hands? Okay, I will start with, yes, please.
So one question to Georgios after his presentation. What you would consider the main bottlenecks in LiDAR development in Europe, in maybe East Europe or Europe? What are the core problems which right now the space industry is facing in terms of LiDAR development?
Okay. As I already mentioned, it's a very new technology, and the driver for this technology is reliability. We still have big issues with LiDAR reliability in space. So if somebody wants to be competitive in the domain, it would be to be able to provide something that will survive longer in space. And not just longer, but problem-free. An example to this is, for example, that Aeolus, it was first designed to have a 3-year life expectancy. Aeolus 2 is required to have 5 years life expectancy, so it's quite different. It is not a simple thing to go from 3 years to 5 years of operation. It requires a lot of investment because this type of technology, like most technologies, it's like a tree. You have to plant it and you have to water it, putting money slowly because you want to see it grow and be, successful in the future.
Thank you. Maybe you want to add something? From your perspective? No. Okay, so we go forward. And I have a question for Mario. From the representative of Latvian businesses. In Latvia, several space components were developed in the frame of VISA contact, but companies like Thales IT, for example, prefer to use USA equivalents. And the question is, could you help with the maiden flight in order to have flight heritage?
Sorry, can you say again the last part?
So the components, Thales prefer US components.
Yes.
But why? What we can do to give them our Latvian US EU components?
Well, this is, I guess, a story goes to also geopolitical problem because US has they call ITAR-free equipments. So when you build a satellite and you want to launch, if you put in technology or other things that are not ITAR-free, you could have problem to send in for a rocket, for example, use a rocket for, I don't know, India, China, or whatever. So preferably, the technology should be or European or United States. And United States has the most of this technology. So sometimes provider of technology prefer using that in order to avoid any problem furthermore. That's the main point, I guess. The only solution is to develop European non-dependency on anything. So as European, we have to work to try to get as much as possible all the technology fields in order to be autosufficient. That's a main challenge, I mean, for the next 10 years for Europe.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
If I can comment, of course it is maybe some examples like that TAS is using US components, but there is a lot of good examples also from Latvia, from Slovenia, from our, let's say, growing country in ESA. We cooperate a lot with LSIs, also with TAS, trying to support these small countries, small companies, to be somehow integrated in the supply chain of LSIs. I think what is really the most important here, it was mentioned before that space development is zero mistake business. So it is reliability is really key. And the key part is, let's say, trust between supplier and the customer or LSI. And this requires a lot of work together, I mean, hands-on together for some years. And we are trying to do that. Start from the very small contracts, like, I don't know, 100, 200K, small development, small parts. But very good example is, like Gorgios mentioned, Eventech. We started in PEX some years ago with Eventech developed starting from very low TRL level. And now in 2 years, there will be flying altimeter, PALT, which core part, event timers, is coming from Latvian entity. So it is exactly this, that for 5 years or 6 years, it is OHB, I think, LSI. So they work together with OHB in this case to be really reliable partner for that, and there is no problem. And we've got more examples like that. So I think everything is trustful is, I think, the most important here. But like you mentioned before, by Mauro, I think there are some aspects or some elements when simply in Europe we have no such technology. And this independence is key.
Thank you. You know, it's actually leading to my next question, because you mentioned PEX. So RPI call its contract, as I understood, and there is similarities to PEX, which known to Latvian space industry.
Yeah, we can say. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can say it is quite similar. PEX is a charter, is like a bit bigger things, but generally the call itself is quite similar. The most important is that this is call dedicated to Latvian entities. Maybe in RPA we focus a bit more on international cooperation, and we are trying to convince Latvian entities to start working together exactly from this reason, that this hands-on together for some years will benefit. It will not happen that LSI will start working with somebody on very serious stuff like that from, let's say, from the, it must be some long story behind. And the second maybe difference between PEX and RPA is that we focus on commercialization. Like was mentioned in Agenda 2025, this is one of the key aspects for ESA, and we are trying to convince entities to see this commercialization, this market opportunities. Like Mauro mentioned in the presentation, that there is something new now. Okay, commercialization on the ground is obvious stuff, but commercialization of space technology in space market is something new but growing. And this should be the end goal of the entities, not to focus on ESA and ESA missions, but simply be supply chain, part of the supply chain of bigger players, and then it is like business-to-business contracts.
And if I can add something, you know, what he's saying is very important. I mean, for what concerns the growth of the Latvia space, industry, is important the international collaboration. In space, you grow up only if you confront and you work with who is better than you. Otherwise, you don't learn. The example I made before, as in Italy, we started understanding what does it mean doing modules pressurized on the space station in early 2000, because NASA asked us to study to doing so. Now, Thales Alenia Space is first in the world working on it. Why? Because they learn from there. Actually, we learn from them. So, international collaboration, it means working with the LSI. Obviously, Latvia is difficult to have a big LSI. Also in Italy, our main LSI, large system integrator, is an Italian-French company. Why? Because we don't have any more national company. But as far as I remember, Thales Alenia Space has 300 subcontractors certified, listed, Italians, French, and European. If you get there, you are certified, you start working with them, and you grew up your standard, and you can apply also for other programs and start doing missions. So it's very important, this international collaboration.
But you already see some Latvian strong sides. Maybe Karel?
Yeah, of course.
From your point of view.
Yeah, I am working with Latvian entities since almost 3 years. So I was really lucky that I could observe the end of PEX period and this transition to associate member. Because, to be honest, associate membership is the beginning of really serious stuff, because you've got access to ESA programs. Yeah, if I need to identify few, I would suggest for sure it is event timers technology, which is very niche, very unique technology, which I believe could be very useful for many technologies. Also, we discussed during the coffee break also on the ground. So yeah, thermal management systems, very huge, very good development already with Thales Alenia Space Italy, by the way. With Alaterm. You've got very unique infrastructure in Irbene, 32 meters antenna dish, which is very unique, and cooperation with between Viratech and Welspis University with Swedish Space Corporation, the biggest European operator of ground stations, is very, very, I think, good future for you. And the last one may be also very niche technology, which is refueling compressors, xenon refueling compressors, which allow refuel the satellite during, let's say, on orbit, which I believe in next some years it will be very critical, especially taking into account the orbiting missions around the moon. Everything is in Latvia. And of course, we cannot forget, we are discussing only about the upstream, but the downstream is also very strong. You've got a lot of companies dealing with Earth observation applications. Some of them are already on the market. So yeah, a lot, I would say.
Thank you very much. It's nice to hear about Latvian businesses who are already in space and strong, and the history of Italy, actually, it's a good example for us to grow and make big corporations, strong corporations, and maybe you have something to say, especially for businesses, how to develop this cooperation before we end our discussion. What is the main way to make the best cooperation in the space industry, space economy?
Very difficult question, eh? I don't have the answer. I can say, first thing, if we are talking about this new space economy, okay, new startups growing up, startups has to clearly focus on the value proposition, understand which is their product, and understanding the market, who are they selling something. Because this has to be clear at the beginning. Because we see many times we have startups incubated in our activities, so we select startups. And sometimes they come having a very important idea, a wonderful technological idea, and when you ask them, okay, what are you doing? And they answer, maybe I can do 3 things, I can do this, I can do this. Okay, no, that is not the real question. You have to select, because you have to demonstrate that you can do something for one market, not starting from your technology solution and try to sell to somebody. This is not the right position. So focusing on the value proposition, focusing on the market, focusing on the competencies, because the first thing is the talent of the person. You have talent at the beginning, and you have to work on your competence. And after is going to come everything. The public will put financial supporting to grow your TRL from 3 to 5 to 6, incubation, acceleration, finance. It's everything after. But before, you have to focus on talent, product, and market.
Thank you. With each answer, it's become more interesting, and I really want to ask more questions, but we have to stick on time. So I hope that you stay in the evening for the dinner, and please use the opportunity and maybe ask questions. Use the networking, offline networking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applause.